Well, his wife, Meghan Markle, she's announced another project, this time a new podcast. After her second one, Archetypes, was axed. She's now launching Confessions of a Female Founder. Now, she made the announcement on Instagram saying, "I'm so excited to share with you something else I've been working on, Confessions of a Female Founder, with my new podcast, Lemonada Media." Now, there's already been some backlash, which is nothing new when we're talking about Meghan Markle, but some people are even suggesting that she's stolen the idea from another YouTuber, that the podcast isn't that original. How do you think this one will go?
Well, I think Kady, Meite, who is the YouTuber in question, whose name Meghan has shall we celebrated, maybe copied, who knows, has been very classy about this. She hasn't gone after Meghan. She said, possibly she's made a mistake. I don't think she's copied me. She's been quite generous around it, so maybe she's angling for an interview with Meghan at some point, who knows. But I think given that Archetypes, which was the first podcast with Spotify, was dropped, and sort of, you remember the Spotify executive called Harry and Meghan a pair of grifters. I mean, it was, that could not have been a more, tragic or, tumultuous exit, I think, from that part of the business. So, will she get an audience? Who knows? It depends who she gets on and the questions that she asks, but also critically, what she reveals about herself, because we know with her current Netflix series, it's all very vanilla. There's nothing meaty or juicy about her that we learn.
Not at all. It's all about elevating takeout dinners and
edible
moving,
flowers.
and moving
things like that.
What was it? Pretzels from one bag to another.
That's right. Decanting them. Yes, don't we all do that, Gabriella? I mean, yeah. So,
thank goodness for her show. Netflix won't be renewing the Sussex's $100 million contract, but may make one-off shows with them going forward, just in case they get divorced. So journalist and screenwriter Marina Hyde told the Daily Mail that other streamers may also fight to work with the couple to keep a vague hand in if one day Meghan and Harry split. That's a bit grim, I must say. But do you think that's probably part of the reason behind why people are keeping this relationship going with them?
Because Meghan's team have already signalled that a post-divorce book could be in the works. You remember that Vanity Fair story in January where it was alleged that her team were, quote, shopping it around to unnamed publishers.
Wow.
So, there's already a plan B, I think, underway for her. So clearly Netflix want to make sure they retain the rights to any post-divorce interview, because it would just blow Diana and their previous interview with Oprah right out of the water. Money could not buy the publicity and the exposure you would get if you were the streamer who owned that content, and everyone will be competing for it. So I'm not surprised. Look, I know Marina, she's very expert in this area, so I do place a lot of strength on what she's saying. I think there's definitely a strategy with Netflix there, kind of dressed up in, well, we already had part 2 of Meghan's show underway anyway. We're always going to do it, but clearly they want to make sure they get the interview when it happens.
When that happens, and that seems to be the speculation as well.
It does.
People are looking at the clock with that one. Let's talk about Disney's Snow White. I want to get your thoughts on what you make of it. Some of the commentary around the movie has been slammed. I think we have a bit of a trailer. Let's play it for you.
But the Queen changed everything.
Take him away!
Your Majesty.
What did you say?
The people need some kindness.
I really don't remember you being this opinionated. Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all?
Famed is thy beauty, Majesty. But a lovely maiden I now behold.
I look at you, and I just want to be the fairest of them all.
It's interesting. This follows a series of scandals and PR nightmares around the movie. Disney scaled back the planned lavish premiere for the show to have only a handful of tightly controlled media there. The film has been branded as woke over fears it's prioritised messaging over authentic storytelling. What's your sense of how this is being received?
Well, the fact that Disney didn't back themselves in and have the big sort of global premiere, I thought was very, very telling indeed. And although it's a lot of reviewers have said critically it's actually quite a nice film to watch. What will matter is the box office takings. Who of the general public are actually going to pay money to see a reworked version of Snow White where there's no prince? You can't mention dwarves. They're like little sort of magical creatures instead. And Snow White's being reimagined as a leader rather than someone who has to be woken up from a deep sleep from a poison apple by her prince and then finds true love. So I don't know why we have to constantly blow up these sort of childhood narratives. It's so tiresome,
But we all
isn't
love,
it?
I
Totally.
love those stories.
We love those stories, and they're a great morality teaching tool, but you don't realise that at the time when you're reading the book or when your mother takes you to see a movie, or you read The Hungry Caterpillar and, 30 years later you're told it's not diverse enough. It's just crazy. Rather than force-feeding the leadership narrative, you can probably get a lot of great lessons just by being a child and reading the book rather than being told what to think all the time, which I think is diabolical.
I couldn't agree more. Louise Roberts, News Corp columnist, thank you so much for
Good to
joining
see you.
us.